This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. In today's class, we are going to discuss the topic called layouts. So first of all, what is a layout? Layout means arrangement of UI elements in a specific order. SAP UI5 has given various layouts, and each layout will arrange the UI elements in a specific style. So when you go to the project, the first thing you will be doing is this screen designing, and looking at the screen, you will choose which layout will be suitable for that particular design, and you will do the development. So let me read out all the layouts that we have in SAP UI5. The grid layout, simple form layout. So these are mainly the form layouts. That means whenever you want to design the forms, you will be using the grid layout and simple form layout. Either one of them, not both. Either grid layout or simple form layout. 90% of your screen, mostly occupied by the simple form layout or grid layout. Okay, so these two, because these two are very powerful form layouts. And both the layouts are present in a different library, so you need to add that library at the top in the view tag. The next one is panel, which is a container layout, and this is called VBox, vertical layout, HBox called horizontal layout, and then Flexbox called as flexible layout. And then we have object header and icon tab bar, so you will understand what exactly it is. Simultaneously, I will also open this FLP Fiori Launchpad so that I can show you directly here. So I set this paint properly yesterday, and we do not have any problem with the paint. Now let us open our employee management application. All right. Now, if you see this one, this is a simple form layout. It's a simple form layout, and even in the create employee screen. So this is also a simple form layout. We have used the simple form layout a lot instead of the grid layout. As I told you, you can use either this or this. Okay. All right. Now let us start with the grid layout without any delay. So what is this grid layout, and what is the concept of this grid layout? The grid layout simply divides the width of the view. So if you assume this as a view, the entire width of this view will be divided into 12 equal parts. And each equal part is called as a grid. For example, if you take this as a width of the view, so width of the view means this is the width of the view from here to here. Okay. Now this width is divided, so from here to here, this width is divided into 12 equal parts. Now I'm going to draw the 12 equal parts. So this might be somewhere at the center. Let's find out another center. Might be this, and this might be another center. Okay. All right. So let's start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11 and 12. Okay. So like this, the entire, all the rows. So this is one row, but all the rows down the line will also be divided in the same 12 equal parts. Okay. Now the concept is very simple. You assign the number of grids to the label and the input field. Okay, so that's all. That's the concept. The grid layout comes up with various designs like one field per row, two fields per row, three fields per row, four fields per row. So like that, you can keep any number of fields per row. However, in the real time, you will encounter mainly one field per row and two fields per row. That's all. At a maximum three fields per row, but that is also very, very rare. Now, when I'm talking about what is one field per row, two fields per row, so let me explain here. One field per row means you will have only one field in a row. For example, employee ID. So this is a label and this will be your input field. So this is called one field per row. Means in a row, there is only one field. Now let me show you what is two fields per row. So this is one field and this is the corresponding input field. And the next one is employee name, for example. And I will have another input field here. So this is called two fields per row. Similarly, you can also have three fields per row. Okay. Normally, when you have one field per row, we assign six grids for each UI element. That means the label will occupy the first six grids, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you observe, that's the reason I have given this input field for the next six grids. So label has occupied six grids. So from this space to this space, the label has occupied, even though the label is, the label is ended here, but this entire space belongs to label. Okay, we have a short label, so it is looking like that. If it is a lengthy label, then it comes till here. All the six grids, the entire six grids are given to the label. Whether it occupies the six grids or not, it does not matter. There might be some short labels, there might be some lengthy labels, right? So enter the six-digit Aadhaar card number, for example. Okay, that's a lengthy label, correct? Enter the PAN card number, lengthy label. There might be some short labels like age. That's all, age, short label. Okay, but does not matter. So we are giving the first six grids for the label. The next six grids will be occupied by the input field. So 6 plus 6, 12 grids are over in the row. So it comes to the next row. Understand this one field per row. 6 grids plus 6 grids. So 6 plus 6, 12 grids are over that are present in the row. So it comes to the next row and again the label and again the input field. So like this, the entire form can be designed. In case of two fields per row, we assign, see there are totally 12 grids in the row, but there are a label input field. So totally 12 grids are in the row, but there are four UI elements, 1, 2, 3, 4. So divide this 12 by 4 and you will get three grids for each UI element. That means, so label we give three grids, and for the input field we give three grids, and again for this label three grids, and for the input field three grids. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, 4 threes are 12. So 12 grids in the row are over. So again it comes to the next line. So like that, the two fields per row design will continue. So similarly, you can have three fields per row. So three fields per row means, so label and then the input field, and again this label. So this line is a label, guys, and again this input field, and again the label and input field. So if you get any confusion how many grids I need to assign, simply count the number of UI elements. So total number of grids is 12 and UI elements are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 UI elements are there in the row. So that means 2 grids each. So for each UI element, you need to give 2 grids. So if you give 2 grids for each UI element, then 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, 6 twos. So 6 twos are 12. The row is over. So 12 grids in that row are over. So it goes to the next line. So like that, 3 fields per row design can be constructed. Okay. Now let us start and see all these 1 field per row, 2 fields per row, and 3 fields per row screen designing. So let us open the view, and here the first thing you need to do is to add the library. So the library in which this is present in sap.ui.layout. Okay, so this is the library sap.ui.layout, and you need to add it in the view tag at the ending. So the view tag ending is here. Give a space, and you need to write XML ns equal to sap.ui.layout. So yeah, after giving this library, you need to provide the shortcut name, otherwise it gives the error. Uh, so you need to give the shortcut name. How to give the shortcut name? Provide colon, and then normally the last words first letter will be given as a shortcut name in the view. So that is simply Yelp. Now the error has gone. So let me compare with the controller. So in the controller, the library is defined here, and the last word is given as a shortcut name in a function. So similarly, in the view, the entire library is given here, and after the XMLNS, we keep a colon, and after the colon, the last word's first letter. What is the first letter? L. So this L is kept as a shortcut name. However, there is no hard code rule like you need to compulsory give the last word's first letter only. So you can give the complete last word as well. So like this also, you can give anything you can give. So basically, there is no rule on the shortcut name. 1 second, guys. Getting a call from mother. Yeah. So you need to give the shortcut name. This is the library, and this is the shortcut name. Okay. All right. So now let us define the grid layout by using the shortcut name. You need to provide L, which is a shortcut name of the library, and then colon, and then you need to write grids. Now this indicates, see, grid is a grid layout, and this grid layout belongs to this library L, and L means sap.ui.layout. Okay, so if you do not write L colon, then it will not work. Then your grid layout will not work. See, all the UI elements which are from the sap.yum library. SAP.yum library is a UI element library, like your buttons, labels, text input field. So all these are UI elements. And UI elements does not need any shortcut name like this. On the other day, we written the button, right? So we have written the input field, text UI element, label UI element. Did I keep any shortcut name before I'm writing button? No. So the reason is any UI element that belongs to sap.yum library, so it does not need any shortcut name. All other extra libraries that you are going to use, so all those libraries must be defined with a shortcut name, and the corresponding layouts or corresponding whatever you are using, so those must be defined along with the shortcut name. Okay, all right, now this is grid, and inside the grid there is something called content of the grid layout. So you need to write content like this. So this is grid layout, and this is the content of the grid layout. Now let us start designing the form. So with a label and text input field. So this is my label, and let me keep an input field like this. So I kept a label, I kept an input field. Now let us copy and paste this label and input field combination for 6 times. Now let us change. This is employee ID name. This is maybe designation. Let us take this as skill. Let us take this as employee email ID. And I'm taking this as employee phone number. Okay. And we can take few more fields as well, but it does not matter. Now let us see how we can uh, display this. Now inside this particular grid tag, what you need to do is you need to give the property. The property name is default span. Okay. And in the default span, you need to provide the number of grids that you are assigning for each UI element. Let me open the paint diagram. Now this is, we are going to design one field per row. Okay, so one field per row means you need to give 6 grids for each UI element, correct? You need to provide 6 grids for each UI element. So I will be giving L6 and M6. Now what is the meaning of L6 and M6? First of all, 6 means 6 grids. 6 grids for each UI element. Each UI element label 6 grids, input field 6 grids, again next label 6 grids, input field 6 grids. So that is the meaning of 6. Now what is this L and what is this M? L stands for large device, that is desktop or laptop is considered as large device, and M stands for medium device, which is iPad or tablet is called medium device. Okay, and for the mobile, you no need to mention, and even for tablet also, you no need to mention. Just I'm showing you option is there. In real time, we mention the same number of grids in the iPad as well as the desktop and laptops. Okay. However, option is there in case in the iPad you do not want 6 grids, you want only 5 grids. So that also you can mention. However, we don't change the number of grids. The reason is even if it is iPad also, the width of the iPad is divided into 12 grids. Even it is mobile also, the width of the mobile is divided into 12 grids. So it really does not matter even you mention this M6 or not. This is optional. The only thing you need to mention is L6. That is mandatory. Okay. M6 is optional. If you want to keep, you keep it. Otherwise, you can remove. All right. Yeah. Now let us run this application and see the output. Now you can see the form is looking like this. This bell is sorry. This horizon theme gives the input field like a depth feeling. Like if you see this input field, it's kind of 3D, three-dimensional feel, like it is having some depth inside. Okay. All right. The form is in front of your eyes, but the form is not looking so nice because of two reasons. One is The distance between the input fields is too high. And second thing is the label is touching the top header. The label is touching this top header, and that is also not looking nice. And even this input field touching this top header, which is also not so nice. Now, how to avoid this? So let us fix this problem of the space between the input fields. How can you fix it? In the grid tag, there is another property which is called vertical spanning, V spacing. So the default value for this is 1. You need to provide it 0. So remove this and keep 0. So vertical spacing 0. Once you keep the vertical spacing 0, now you can see all the input fields aligned properly without any gap. However, still this form is not looking so nice because this label is touching the top edge of the header, and even this input field is touching the top edge of the header. And there is no form heading. If you have a nice form heading, then it looks very nice, but we do not have any title for our form. Again, how to fix this? To fix this, SAP has given another container layout called panel. Panel is called as a container layout. The panel comes up with a header part where you can give a nice heading. So we simply keep this grid layout inside the panel. Panel is a container, and container means what? Container means it can contain something. It can contain something. If I call a water bottle as a container, now I can use the water bottle to contain water. It can also contain petrol. It can also contain juice. It can also contain any liquid, right? So basically, container means it contains something. So similarly, panel is a container. Panel is a container. So container means it can contain anything. Now let us keep this grid layout inside this container called panel and see what is the advantage that you will get if you keep this grid layout inside the panel. Now I kept the panel inside, I kept the grid inside the panel. Now if you want to beautify this, simply use Shift Alt F, and this will be beautified automatically. So space, if you get, you just use it Control X. The space, the empty lines will be cleared out. All right, now the code is very much beautified. The panel comes up with a property called header text, and let me type some heading, employee details. Now let us see how it looks. All right, now the form is looking so nice. So it has a nice heading called employee details, and according to this theme, the form looks fine. There is another advantage if you keep this form in with a panel, and that is the panel comes up with a feature called expand collapse. So the property is expandable, and let me give the expandable true. Now let us see what happens when you give expandable equal to true. The expandable true property will create a expand collapse behavior for the panel, and your form can be expanded and your form can be collapsed like this. When you have the forms with multiple sections, we use this expand collapse behavior. For example, this is employee details, but let's say, so I'm copying this panel completely and I'm pasting here, and let's say this is personal details or family details. There is another section called family details. Now let us see, you can clearly see two forms. One is employee details and there is another section, family details. Now whatever the section the end user want to fill, so he can keep it, and the other section he can collapse and he can enter only that particular section. So this kind of expand and collapse behavior, it is very important in the real time when you are developing large forms, especially at the time we use these panels. Okay. Now there are two panels, means there are two sections, and the client want one of the panel to be open by default and the other panel to be closed, means collapsed by default. But when you run this application, you can see both the panels are collapsed, both the sections are collapsed. But the client requirement might be he want the first section to be expanded and all other sections to be collapsed. All other sections to be collapsed. So in that case, what you need to do is you need to keep the other property expandable true, means the form should be expanded and collapsed, means expand behavior should come for the panel. That is the meaning of expandable. It can be expandable. That is the meaning of expandable true. So once you give this expandable true, you will get this expand collapse icon. This is called expand collapse icon. So this you got because of the property expandable equals to true. Now, if you want one panel to be expanded by default, okay, then you need to write another property that is expanded equal to true. That means this form should be expanded. The form should be expanded by default. Now, since we have not written this property for family details, only the first section will be expanded and the next section will be collapsed. Now you can see employee details is in the expanded state, but the family details is in the collapsed state. But if you reverse the property, for example, if I cut this and I will keep this for the family details, now you can see employee details will be collapsed by default, but the family details will be expanded by default. I hope you understand. The family details is expanded and employee details is by default collapsed, and the end user's choice whether he want to expand it or not. Okay, so now the form is looking nice. Okay, all these input fields gives you a 3D little depth actually. You can feel slight depth. And if I let me just try to change this from horizon to Fury underscore 3 underscore dark. Now you will find the different behavior. The theme has changed. Now the input fields are, so SAP says this is a two-dimensional input field. You will not find that depth kind of feeling. Uh, so like this, SAP always keep on giving multiple themes. Nowadays, the clients are using horizon underscore dark and horizon underscore light. Okay, so just want to show you how it looks with various theme. Now this is SAP underscore horizon, means light color. Now let us see how it looks. It's so this is SAP underscore horizon, very light color actually, very light silverish kind of color. Anyway, so I'm changing it back to the dark color because I personally liked this dark color. All right. So now this is one field per row. Now let us convert this into the two fields per row. That is this design, two fields per row. To convert this into two fields per row, we just need to do only one change, and that is you need to assign three grids, three grids for each UI element. Okay. So can anybody from the audience tell me where exactly I need to do the code change? Anyone? How can I convert this form into two fields per
Default
row?
span, default span.
So exactly. So instead of giving the default span L6, M6, give L3 and M3. Now three grids will be assigned for each UI element. Now when it converts into two fields per row, now you will understand one thing. Now let us see what is that. The above form is one field per row. The below form is two fields per row. If you clearly observe this particular label, if I draw a straight line, this label touching the top edge of the input field, I mean to say this label is actually not center aligned with this input field. I will try to explain what exactly I'm telling you using the paint diagram. So let's say this is the label, and this particular input field is like this. The label is not centrally aligned with this input field. Now, what is centrally aligned? I mean to say, if your input field is having like this, okay, this label is pointing to the center of this input field, that is called centrally aligned. But actually, this input field, this label is touching the top edge. You can see if I draw a straight line like this, the label is touching the top edge of the input field but not the center. Okay, so this is touching the top edge but not the center. Okay, so even this is present here also. If you see one field per row, even if I draw a very straight line, so this is going to touch the top edge of the input field, but you didn't get a feeling in this one field per row, because in one field per row there is a gap between the label and this input field, and that is the reason you did not observe much about this alignment. Actually, this label is also touching the top edge of the input field. So if you want to experience, I will keep this the letter D with a very long. Now let us see. So now if you see this particular D, if you see the label is touching the top edge of the input field but not the center edge, correct? So we need to correct this as well. So how to correct this? So here, to make this particular label to come down little, so basically what we want, this label is touching the top edge, but we do not want the label to touch the top edge. We want the label to touch the center edge. So you can compare this label with this input field. Since it is near, this input field is near to this label, so it's easy for you to compare. So you can clearly see this E is touching the top edge. Now, how can I make this to come slightly down? I want this label to come slightly down. Now, I will give a hint. We need to apply the predefined CSS class. Now, can anybody from the audience remember, or can anybody tell me what is the appropriate CSS class I can apply to make this label come little down.
Adding,
Huh?
we need to provide means the default CSS.
No. Okay,
Like
so let me give you a hint. On the other day, for the input field and button, which are touching each other, so we provided a small gap. How did we provide the small gap?
it's a tiny margin we have
Spacing.
added.
By using tiny
Mm,
margin, correct?
Tiny margin. Yeah.
So your margin CSS class has two variables, SAP UI, uh, the size and then size and then the direction. Okay, so SAP UI, then you need to mention the size and then the direction. Okay, so let me use the tiny margin. So I used the size as tiny margin and the direction. So if I apply this tiny margin at the top, I want the margin at the top, then this label will go down, correct? If I apply the margin at the begin, then what happens? That particular UI element will go right. If I apply the margin at the end of the UI element, then the UI element goes left. If I apply the margin at the top, then that UI element goes down. If I apply the margin at the bottom, then that UI element goes up, isn't it? So uh, you need to think that very simple behavior, and let's use this SAP UI tiny margin top. Once again, the battery is too low. Now let me use this CSS class equals to SAP UI tiny margin top, and let's apply this for all the labels. And let me keep this here, here. All right, so we applied this for all of them, and so let me give this title as two fields per row. All right. Now your label thing will be set right. See, the label is with respect to the center edge of the input field. You can just see this adjacent input field. And even if you draw the straight line, so this is touching this input field. So this is how you need to fix this with the grid layout. So even this one is also fixed, but you really can't see the difference. All right. Now let us see the three fields per row. However, this three fields per row is very rare. I have done almost 30 projects in SAP UI5, but I never find this three fields per row. So very rare, but technically it is possible. Let me copy this panel and paste it once again, and I will call this as uh, official details or personal details. And let us keep this as three fields per row. So to make this three fields per row, so we already discussed that three fields means 6 UI elements. So 12 grids divided by 6. So you need to assign 2 grids for each UI element. So you simply need to write L2 and yum2, and that's all, my dear friends. So now you got this three fields per row design. See, the form is having employee ID, employee name and employee designation, three fields you have in a single row. So like this, in the real time, you can design the wide variety of forms. So you can see in front of your eyes. So one field per row design, two fields per row design, three fields per row design, and you can also design four fields per row, five fields per row as well. But believe me, you will not find those requirements in the real time. The max to max requirements are these only. One field per row, two fields per row, or three fields per row. Okay. All right. The story of the
So
grid layout has not ended yet.
there's one question
Somebody,
here.
yeah.
Yeah. So when we are using fields for row, it directly
Okay.
impacting our input field length, right? So in real time, we'll maybe face some challenge, right? If we have our input field length is more, if we need. So in that
You
case,
can type in, there is no limit for this input field,
okay,
unlimited.
okay,
Okay.
okay, okay, okay.
Don't think like this input field is short, so I can't enter large values. Input fields are unlimited.
But we
Okay.
can set max length, right? Yeah, yesterday we have discussed.
Yeah, max length is for you, for your condition. So let's say uh, your employee name should not cross more than 25 characters, then you will apply. Otherwise, you will not apply. But your input
Okay.
field will not stop you from entering any number of times. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks.
You, uh, okay, fine. Just give me a second. I think the charging I plugged in, but it is not getting charged. The actually the power is gone. That's the reason. Give me a second. I will just plug into the other port. Yeah. All right. So the story of this grid layout has not ended yet, and we have another design for the grid layout, and that is there is no special name for that, but I'm calling that as zigzag. This is not the name given by SAP guys. I'm giving this name zigzag design. Okay. So what is this zigzag design? See here, this form is having uh, one field per row. Okay. And the label is occupying 6 grids and the input field is occupying 6 grids. And in the second pattern, you have two fields per row and each UI element occupying 3 grids and it is looking very nice. And in the third design, where three fields per row are there, so here field is occupying 2 grids and it is looking very nice. But in your real time, you may encounter some screens which are not following these patterns, like one field per row, two fields per row, three fields per row. They may not follow those designs. Okay. So I come across those projects also where the client has does not have one field per row, two fields per row, three fields per row design. So let us take one such screen. So when I worked for a client, he has this kind of design. One second. All right. So the first field is employee ID. Okay. Even before I draw this, let me divide this into 12 equal grids so that you will understand the concept of this zigzag layout as well. Okay, so this is another half. This is another half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so there might be slight here and there, small difference might be there, but just ignore it. Employee ID. Now the client want this employee ID. Probably I will take this as instead of employee ID, let's take this as employee name. Actually, when I rub it, it should be white, but it is coming like this. I don't know. I reset everything, but I'm not able to reset this. Okay, so let me take this as employee name. And the client want this employee name to be a very lengthy field, something like this. Okay. And let's say there is employee skill, for example. Okay. And he want this to be like this. And maybe employee designation. And so in the second row, he want two fields. And again, in the third row, address, employee address, and address is very lengthy. So he want this to be like this. So this is just an example from my project, guys, to make you understand the zigzag design. So again, zigzag is the name that I am giving, not SAP. All right. So here in the first row, I have one field. In the second row, I have two fields. And in the third row, I have one field again. That means you are not particularly following one field per row design, two fields per row design, or three fields per row design. So there might be some screens which are the combination. One row may be having one field, second row might be having two fields, third row again may have some three fields, and again fourth field may have one field. Fifth row again it can have two fields. So basically the random number of fields in each row. So those kind of screens are also possible, and how to deal with those screens. So I have just taken this as an example with a one field and two fields and again one field, but you can take a wide variety like one field. So here I have taken two fields, and again you can take three fields also. Okay, again then one field. So these kind of zigzag designs, how to develop in case you want to develop, how to develop. Okay, so now I'm going to take this particular screen in another panel. So let us take the third panel. So I will call this as zigzag pattern, and let us define the grid layout. I'm just copying this. All right. So whenever your screen is not following under one field per row, two fields per row, three fields per row design, it is having this combination of these designs, then the first thing you should do is remove this default span from the top. So you need to remove this. That is the first thing you need to do. Next, second thing. The second thing you need to do is here, whatever the design that is given by the end user, you draw it on a paper or paint a diagram like this and assign uh, some proportionate number of grids for each UI element, what you feel best. For example, this is the design given by the functional or the client. Now I need to draw it on a paper or on the paint diagram, and let me assign some number of grids. After looking at this label and input field, I felt giving 3 grids for the label and 9 grids for this input field is best. So 3 plus 9, 12 grids are over, so the row gets completed. By looking at the second row, which are having two fields in this row, so I can give 3 grids for this, 3 grids for this, and again 3 grids for this, and again 3 grids for this. Okay, so you need to give some numbers like this. And by looking at the third row, again I felt for this label I can give 3 grids, and for this input field I can give 9 grids. So these are some assumption values, and these values you can change in the coding as well. But on a pen and paper, first you need to decide some number of grids, and then you need to come to the coding part. Since it is a zigzag design, you need to go to each and every UI element and assign the number of grids for that UI element. Till now, we have given the number of grids for each and every UI element directly by using the property default span. And the default span by default assigned those many number of grids. So for example, if you take 3, so it has assigned 3 grids for all the UI elements. But in the zigzag design, that is not the case. You cannot give the default span like that because every UI element is having different number of grids. So you need to assign these number of grids by going to individual UI elements. Okay, let us see how to do this. For this particular label, I need to assign 3 grids. And how I can do that? Before this label tag is getting closed, you need to hit a enter, and inside, in between, you need to type a tag called layout data. The moment you type layout data, it will come. And inside this layout data, you need to type another tag, so which is called L colon grid data, and you need to provide span. And here you need to give the 3. Okay, so I think I need to give L3 like this. Okay, so grid data span L3 M3, so 3 grids. Now let us try to understand the meaning of this 3 lines of code. Here, this particular layout data tag indicates that, boss, I'm going to mention the layout information for this label. That is the meaning. Okay. And since this particular layout information belongs to grid information, grid data information, and grid data obviously belongs to the grid layout. So here you need to mention L colon because the grid data belongs to grid layout. So L colon and then span. Span means number of grids, 3 grids. Now copy this layout data tag, Control C, and you need to assign for each and every UI element like this. Okay. Let us design this one. So this is employee name. So I'm calling this as employee name. And for the input field, I need to give 9 grids. So I will write L9, M9. The next one is employee skill and designation. So this is employee skill and this is employee designation. So before the label got ended and before this input field got ended, so I will paste it. This is L3, but the input field is also L3. So here L3, this is also 3, 3, 3. Next designation, designation is also 3, right? So you can just paste it, and even this input field is also 3 grids. For input field also we have given 3 grids. Now the last one is address. Address is 3 and 9 combination. So employee address, and address is 3 grids, but this input field is 9 grids. This is 9, and I'm deleting the other. I hope you understand this zigzag design, guys. So you need to mention the number of grids for the individual UI elements. Okay, so before that gets closed, so you need to define layout data means data about my layout. There is a meaning, and this is grid data, and grid data belongs to grid layout. So you need to write L colon grid data, and span means number of grids. That's all. Let us see if the zigzag design, yeah, now you can see all the patterns of the grid layout in a single screen. Single field, two fields, three fields, and zigzag fields. So by using this concept, you can design, it does not matter how many fields are present in that row, so you can also mix and match. Okay. However, in the real time, this kind of screen is little rare. Okay, you will not find this kind of screen. 90% cases will be one field per row, or two fields per row, or three fields per row. 10% cases will be fall under this case. That's all for today. So that's the entire story about the grid layout, and you can develop any kind of complex screen, any kind of complex form you can design by using grid layout in the real time. So this is one option to develop your screens, and that is grid layout. So in tomorrow's class, we are going to deep dive into the second option to develop the forms, and that is simple form layout. Remember, in your real time, 90% of the screen designing will be done by using the grid layout and the simple form layout. All other layouts are the helper layouts, and this is again a special case, object header and icon tab bar, that I will explain. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, otherwise you can leave.
From my side, nothing.
Do you have any
Okay.
limitation on a one page? How many panels we can add? Like,
No, no, nothing. You can have unlimited. Nothing like that.
okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, guys. Sending the code, so you can download this code into your business application, into your desktop.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, Sai. Hello. Sai, you are audible. Hello. Sai, you ping me if you have anything, because I can't hear you. Okay. Have a nice day, guys. Bye bye.